Good morning, everybody.
Good
Morning,
morning,
Jeff.
Jeff.
How you doing?
Happy
Morning.
Friday.
Good morning.
Happy Friday.
If
Morning.
if Laura or Amanda or somebody were getting nervous or Sherry, don't worry. Just had another call, just wrapped up, ran a little long. Um, so
Never
welcome
doubted
everyone.
you.
So you've already started recording 7 minutes. I don't know. I guess I'll have to go back and watch what y'all are talking about while I wasn't here.
Nothing.
Okay. Oh, hey, Michael, how are you? Nick, how
Hey,
you doing?
good. How's it going?
Good. All right, so we're kind of at the halfway point. And I'm looking forward to the end of this crazy session. Um, so we had a lot of activity this week. This is the bill report that got sent out last night. I don't know if y'all have seen it yet. It should be posted by now. I haven't checked, but this is the report from yesterday evening. Again, ordered in last action date. So this picks up the activities from yesterday. Um, Not in order of preference. So again, I'm going to go through kind of the changes that have been to these bills that have been moving, and then down at the bottom of this list, really starting around here, I think these we're starting to see the bills that aren't going to make it because there's not enough weeks left, and the committee meetings will stop happening on the subcommittees. I think the week after next. So we got kind of one more week. It would be a Hail Mary for some of these bills to make it, but anyway. So just going from top to bottom, and as usual, if anybody wants to stop me and ask questions, please do. Um, the links to the bills, if you want to read the analysis or read the bill text, they're here on the left. And unless anybody's got any questions before I dive in, I'll dive in. All right, excellent. So again, in order of action, so the distributed wastewater treatment system GP bill that made its second of three stops in the Senate. It's already done one of two in the House, so it's got one more stop on both House and Senate. It's scheduled for next week, so I think that's looking good for passing. Um, Water access facilities. This is the bill that is for clean marinas. Um, that has made it all the way through in the House. I don't think it's moved much in the Senate though, so we'll see. That's further down. I haven't been watching that one closely. The Dax bill has, I think this is the one. I'm pretty sure this is the one that has the kind of the hidden fluoride ban in it. It's been moving. Special districts on the House side has been moving. This abolishes soil and water conservation districts. It does a bunch of other things related to special districts, but I flagged it for environment because it gets rid of the soil and conservation districts and transfers those responsibilities to DAX. This is in the category of kind of Doge bills, state Doge bills. If you haven't heard that, there's a few bills that are kind of in that category of realignment and government efficiency kind of stuff. And this is certainly one of those. But I think this
Sorry,
is
Jeff,
moving in the House and not in the Senate. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say, do you think it's going to move or because that's kind of a big deal, right? These soil conservation districts. Not that I know what they do, but there's a lot of activity around them.
I I'm so cynical, Michael. I don't even think you want me to answer that. I have no idea what they do. I don't, and because I don't think it's a big deal if DAX does it. Like I don't know why there's a special soil and conservation district when you have a whole agency that does agriculture stuff. Like why not move them together?
Yeah.
So I kind of land on that on this, on that issue on this topic.
Okay.
Um, but my opinion doesn't matter. Uh, your opinion matters. So tell me what you think about it.
Well, no idea.
The former phosphate mining lands. This is a kind of a immunity um for sorry, my brain isn't working yet. This is for radon exposure home builders, developers. I think, I've talked to some lawyers about this. They think it's a good thing. It kind of cleans up or prevents, plaintiffs' attorneys from coming in after the fact and suing a developer after they've done development, and builders after they've done development or home construction in compliance with all their permits. They've done all their required, radon safety stuff. And so in the kind of the explanation I heard, it kind of closes a loophole. It prevents the opening up of a loophole. It is moving in the Senate right now. It is not moving in the House. So that's a TBD whether that moves forward. I think it may have gone through one committee. So let me just say one more thing too. If any one of these bills makes it to the floor and in one chamber, but in the other chamber, it hasn't really moved, it can still be taken up. And if the rules say if you have passed through one committee, let's say in the House, and then that's it. And in the Senate, it moves through all three committees and goes to the floor and gets passed. At that point, the House can lay down their bill. They can take up the Senate bill, and it can go straight to the floor. So there are bills in here that maybe have moved on one side or the other. And that does not mean they're dead. They can definitely be taken up. And a lot of times, one chamber will see that it's moved all the way through, and they'll say, oh, I like that bill. Or maybe I want to do some horse trading, during the budget negotiation process. And I want to trade a favor on an appropriation issue if I bring that bill over and pass it in messages. So there's a lot of that will happen in the last couple of weeks. So just knowing that a bill has made it all the way through on one side is important. That can often mean it can get passed, even if it hasn't had a lot of movement on the other side. And I think this phosphate mining issue is one of those. All right, waste facilities. This is one of these bills that's really named something different than it really means. This bill was written to prevent a waste to energy project in Miami-Dade County. And it's called waste facilities. The House version has a similarly misnomer title. It's similarly misnamed. Also doesn't say anything about what it really is. And we'll get to it here in a second. I won't try to find it now. Just I'll flag that when it comes up. It is moving on both House and Senate. So somebody's really upset about that potential waste to energy facility in Miami-Dade County. The Springs Restoration Bill is really about domestic wastewater treatment facilities at AWT and reclaimed water and how that's treated inside outstanding Florida Springs recovery and prevention strategies. So it's called Spring Restoration, but it's really a wastewater facility and reclaimed water bill. So do look at that if that's something you care about. This stormwater management system bill we've talked about a few times on these calls. This is requires MS4s or municipalities to do annual inspections of all of their stormwater infrastructure and basically certify that their system is working to the Division of Emergency Management by June 1 of each year. This is being pushed back on hard by the MS4s, so through their League of Cities and through the Stormwater Association. And as a result, I think it's not moving in the House. It is moving in the Senate. So not sure what's going to come of that. This is the companion DAX bill we already talked about. This release of conservation easements is interesting. If any of y'all have been through a redevelopment project where there's an old conservation easement, it is a pain in the butt, I understand, to get it released at South Florida Water Management District in particular. But all the water management districts, make it more or less easy to do this. Certainly the understanding is the conservation lands needs to be replaced, mitigation would need to be replaced, but just the act of moving it has been kind of put out of reach. I think the South Florida Governing Board even made a policy decision, and told staff, do not bring us, releases of conservation easements. We're not going to do them. So this bill says, no. Everybody, you're entitled to it. if you meet these certain requirements, you're allowed to get that done, and that's what this bill does. Brownfields is moving. I think it's likely to pass. If you practice in brownfields, then definitely do look at this. There's a lot of stuff in here. It's been characterized as kind of a glitch bill, kind of tweaking some things in the margins. There's some substantive stuff in here, though. For one thing, it allows you to break up sites, and as a result, you can get a kind of a closure bonus more than one time, more than once. And I think it was described yesterday. I was on a Brownfields Association call, and they were talking about this. You can get a closure on the front nine of a golf course, get a closure bonus as a tax credit, and then redevelop the back nine as a different entity at a different time and close it separately and get another closure bonus. So that it does allow, or you could think of it as incentivizing more brownfield redevelopment and brownfield, cleanup activity because of that ability to access the bonuses. It also opens up brownfield VICTIC applicability. That's the voluntary cleanup tax credit to local governments, brings them all the way up to July 1, 2025. So they were foreclosed from accessing VICTIC, like going back to 1997 or something like that. And they were essentially brought up to today, which means local governments can get involved in tax credits from brownfield eligible activities. And then finally, it opens up Superfund sites to VICTIC tax credits. So like I said, it has a bunch of things in there. So do look at that if you're in the brownfields world.
Jeff, I have a question on that.
Of course.
And maybe it's a definition issue. In 62-780, the cleanup rule, a site is defined. Does that mean 62-780 is going to be revised as well?
Yeah, it tweaked it. Yeah, a site has a legal, is the boundary of the ownership, not necessarily the size of the spill or the release or the original release.
So that's going to be in the bill, or they're going to change 780?
I think it's in the bill. I think they believe they're doing it.
And if they accept it in the bill, then 62-780 would have to go into rulemaking to change that?
No, I think it would just amend the definition of site. And you can do that by law. So this is a legal interpretation thing. So I'm just going to use my standard engineer disclaimer. So let me do a little bit more research. Let me see if I can talk to one of the attorneys in the Brownfield Association and get you an actual answer from a lawyer.
Thank you, sir.
Of course.
Hey, Jeff, before we move on, Michael had a comment in the chat about House Bill 683.
Sorry, I wasn't watching the chat. Thank you for reminding me.
Okay, sure.
683.
I'm here for you.
I appreciate it.
I
Make
just
sure
read-
Jeff sees the comment. Good job. 683. Which one was that? Have we already talked about it?
I don't remember if you did or not, but there was some language in there that says local governments they're going to give them guidance. The state is going to give them guidance on how they can choose contractors. And that's something we deal with a lot as engineers. And so I was really curious, like there are many times when we've come up with the plans and someone, they get all the submittals from the contractors and there's reasons why you don't want to choose some contractors. So
I think this is telling me I don't have 683 in the environmental tracker. Can somebody remind me what the rule?
Maybe it's
or
not
the bill
environmental.
title?
Maybe it'll be in the next discussion.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just not familiar with that number, Michael.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, I think we were at this brownfield. So this is 691 Springs Restoration is the house companion of the bill we already talked about. This is AWT facilities, reclaim water, OFWs. This is Rep. Connerly's bill. I think it is all the way through. Yeah, it is. This is on the floor. Administrative procedures. I haven't talked about this one yet. This is moving in the House. I don't think it's moving in the Senate. I'll check myself when we get further down, but this is a JAPC bill. So Joint Administrative Procedures Committee is the legislative committee that oversees state agency rulemaking. And the House chair of JAPC, it's a joint committee. So there's a House chair and a Senate chair. The House chair is Rep. Overdorf, and he is fit to be tied about the statement of estimated regulatory costs that DEP rolled out with the stormwater rule 2 years ago. And so this bill, he thinks it was deficient, not enough information, no public input, blah, 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 blah. So this bill is intended to, quote, fix that. And what it does do is mean it makes the statement of estimated regulatory cost process have to follow a rule making process. So that means there's a notice of a CERC. It's got to be published. There's public comment. You can get a hearing. So that CERC process will take its own kind of rulemaking to get approved to then accompany a new rule back to the legislature for ratification. So definitely imposes more burdens on agencies when they do rulemaking that triggers that CERC requirement. It's a priority of Overdorf. I don't know whether Senator Grahl is the co-chair, whether her bill is moving as well as his is, but his is making it through. This drilling bill is just a bill that, I mean, just say that like I'm disparaging it. It is a bill that Senator Simon filed for the drilling in the Apalachicola Basin. There's no House companion, but he's diligently pushing it forward. It's moving. Made it through one stop, excuse me. The recycling bills, there's a House and Senate recycling bill. It just changes the kind of the way we count recycling. It changes some commercial recycling counting process or mechanisms to try to help get us closer to that 75% recycling goal. There's not really anything regulatory in here, but I flagged it since it's recycling. I threw it in environment. There's the Brownfields companion. It did pass the Ways and Means Committee late yesterday, so this should be updated. It passed yesterday. So it's got one more stop at State Affairs next week. Mitigation banks, we haven't talked about this yet. It was moving pretty well. I think it passed the Senate this week at its second stop, and it is at its third stop in the House. It's getting some no votes from Democrats who are raising concerns about kind of lowering the bar on wetland mitigation. But the proponents are doing, I think, a pretty good job of defending the policy. So very briefly, in the federal wetland mitigation world, if there are no credits available in the service area where the impact takes place, the feds will allow you to go to an adjacent service area and use credits and transfer those credits into your, for your project and inside your basin. That is how much they prefer wetland banks to in lieu or on-site mitigation, et cetera, permittee responsible mitigation. So what this does, as it's been described, in committee and in the bill analysis, is matches the state, to the feds. So it would allow you to go outside of your service area for credits. And when you do that, you have to apply a multiplier, and it's distance related. So if you have to go too far outside or very far outside, you're buying many more credits. But it is intended to do two things: align with the federal policy on this, and also to address the fact that there are service areas that have run out of credits, and people, the development needs options. And so that's where the criticism kicks in. The enviros that have been speaking out against this and getting some no votes would prefer, moratorium to develop, to allowing you to go outside the service area. This is the kind of the living shoreline bill. The coastal resilience bill creates some more specific guidelines on living shoreline types of projects. There's a lot of stuff buried in here. If you're into this kind of stuff, do look at this. I think it's made it all the way through the House and on the floor. I think the Senate is probably going to make it onto the floor as well. So this is looking like a pass, would be my guess right now. Administrative procedures. Okay, so this is already on the floor. So forgive me what I said before when I said it. I think it was lagging behind the House. It looks like it's already on the floor in the Senate. So this is the JAPSI bill. Waste incineration. I told you I was going to come back to this and find it. This is the bill that prohibits a specific waste to energy facility in Miami-Dade County. It's on its last stop in the Senate. There's the House version of distributed wastewater treatment is in state affairs in the House. It's the last stop in the House. This is now from here on down, I'm going to say not no, but there's a few of these bills now that have not moved in 2 weeks and are stuck in their first committees or no committee, and I'm gonna start calling some deaths here soon. So this one is one of them. So this is in the House. It's moved 2 stops. It changes the timing of when you need a septic tank permit relative to your building permit. So current law says to get a building permit, you have to have a septic tank permit if you're in an area that's unserved by sewer and you need a septic tank. This bill says to get a building permit, you only must have applied for a septic tank permit. So it changes the timing. The Senate companion, I think, was withdrawn. Like it was filed and never referred to committee and shows up as withdrawn on the website. So I don't think this is going anywhere. That's dead. The mitigation bill, I think this is going. This has made it through its first stop. Senator Probst. Yeah, I think it's still just waiting on it being calendared at Senator Probst. So House version is moving a little bit ahead of Senate. It's been stuck a couple of weeks, but I think it's likely gonna get picked up in the Senate next week. There's a few bills down here that I don't know a lot about. So this is one of them. Sanitary stormwater facility county, blah, 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 blah. I don't know crap about this. I'm sorry. It hasn't moved, so I haven't really been watching it. It was not even referred to committees. So I'm just going to beg forgiveness and say, I don't care about this bill. Same thing with this one, although I do know a little bit about it. This is a lead, requires some extra stuff for communities that were, maybe impacted by lead in their drinking water facilities. It was introduced by Democrat Senator Berman, never assigned to any committees, never sees the light of day. But I did know that this was a lead issue. Here's the companion of that former phosphate mining lands liability bill. It did make it through. Well, I say it made it through one committee, but it looks like it's in its first committee of reference. I need to double check that. I thought it made it through one committee, but this says it has not. Wait. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I'm kind of reading this in real time. So it has made it through one committee, made it through natural resources. It is in the civil justice and claims subcommittee. So that means it's at its second stop. So this is in that category of bills that if it passes through in the Senate, it can get picked up in messages. It has 2 more stops, so it's really on the bubble as to whether it can make it on its own, but it could get grabbed by the Senate on the floor. And then finally, these bills down. It's too soon to say it. I was going to say everything else is dead, but that's not true. So this is a state lands bill. I think this is probably dead. It has not made enough progress on the Senate side. Does a lot of things to Division of State Lands, Division of Recreation and Parks. I never really studied the thing, but if you if you care about that stuff, maybe don't worry about it. I don't think it's going to make it. These next two are definitely ones we've been talking about. You can see they have not made any progress in more than 2 weeks now, 3 weeks now. These are the water management district bills. On the Senate side, it's made it through to appropriations. So that's its last stop before the floor. On the House side, it is still in its first stop, Natural Resources and Disaster Subcommittee, which would normally be a big problem. I'm only saying, I'm putting a big asterisk here because we've been hearing that this is a priority legislation. This is probably going to be a horse trading, or trading chip in the appropriations process. And it's likely, I would still say it's likely to pass, even the fact that it's been sitting here for 3 weeks. I think it's teed up to be traded, to be brought to the floor, brought up in messages, and used as a trading chip, because it is a priority of the Senate president. So don't say this is dead, even though it's been sitting for 3 weeks. Here's the companion state land management bill. And then I think probably everything down here, particularly these ones that just say introduced, that means it was never assigned committees. They're probably dead. Everything down here. So I'm just going to stop talking. There's some withdrawn bills. So anybody have any questions?
That water management bill that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
is that the one that requires gives the legislation approval to veto water management district projects, stuff like that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And do you have any thoughts on that? It seems, I don't know. Seems like it could make that.
Yeah, here are my thoughts. Because I live north of I-4 and I see all, 800 million a year kind of money going down to that.
To the Everglades, yeah.
That sucking sound called the Everglades. Yeah, I think it's appropriate if my tax dollars are going to that kind of spending, that there's some more oversight on it. Now, I like Drew Bartlett and I think those guys are doing a great job and blah, blah, blah. But they're, that's a ton of money that is, being managed every year by the governing board. And they're, he would say, so let me say something that, in the defense of South Florida is they do reports every year. It goes up to the legislature, and sometimes people don't read that stuff. So
Sometimes
there isn't an entirely innocent party and an entirely guilty party when it comes to oversight of the appropriations. I think there's probably a little bit of truth to both their stories, that there needs to be more oversight, and that the reporting that's being provided by South Florida isn't being read. I think there's probably a little bit of truth to both of those things.
So Jeff, this is Russell
Yep.
Tripp with Rinker Materials. Apparently I missed your comments on House Bill 739 and its companion Senate bill.
Sanitary and storm. Yeah. You missed my comments because I was, well, even if you heard my comments, you wouldn't have gotten much out of them.
Okay.
I admitted I wasn't really very conversant on this. So I think we talked about this bill maybe on the very first call. This is maybe requires some DOT standards for culverts and pipes and things like that.
I fully comprehend and read the bill.
Okay.
I was wondering
Okay.
what your insights were on the bill.
Oh, I have no insights on the bill.
Okay.
It does not look like it has moved at all on the House, which means at this point, it doesn't look like there's any chance of it passing.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the League of Cities are against it. The
Yep.
Florida Association of Counties is against it.
Yeah, here you go.
So,
I'll go ahead. Here are my thoughts. It's dead.
okay. I like that.
Just forget it. Forget it ever happened. Look for it next year.
Okay. I'll be up in Tallahassee next week with the NUCA folks doing our contacts. So we'll probably meet with Roe again on that. So, okay. Thank you.
It's dead because it was never assigned. It wasn't even assigned committees in the Senate.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Jeff, I put the bill summary and title in the chat on the bill Michael was talking about earlier.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Construction regs.
Hey,
Yeah,
Laura.
I think this has been talked about on the general calls, right, Alan? Or was it mentioned on your calls?
I've pulled it up, so I'll bring it up on the next call.
Okay.
Because I'm interested. I've looked through the analysis here, and I'm interested in the part that Michael's concerned about. So, Michael,
Okay.
are you going to be on that call?
I will now.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate everybody's time and attention this morning. We'll talk to you again next week. And as always, if you have any questions in the interim, feel free to flip me an email and I'll do my best to answer them.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Y'all have a
y'all.
great weekend.
Thank you, Jeff.
Of course, you're welcome. Bye.
Bye,
Thanks, Jeff.
everybody.